Ryan Day stepped in it a little bit, talking about moving the Michigan game. I don't think anybody who's followed Ohio State football for the last 40 years, 50 years, 80 years wants that game moved out of the last Saturday in November. So I think that's going to be a non-starter, I think. That game's going to be there in 100 years in that same spot if they're still doing college football in 100 years. So I don't think that's going to happen. And thankfully, Jim Harbaugh didn't crap on him too hard when he got his opportunity. He's too busy crapping on him each last Saturday in November right now to crap on him too hard about, his misguided attempt. I mean, I get where he's coming from. I mean, Texas and Oklahoma have had to replay their game, and thankfully they play in October, so it's not right the next week. But did the Big 12 have a 7-day rematch during last year too? Maybe, I don't know. So there's a precedent for it, but I don't think we're going to see that changed.
It's my remembrance that Jim Harbaugh basically said he doesn't care when they play.
Yeah, he said he had no preference,
but his
no opinion.
His last comment was most of us look forward to it being when it's and he said that's when we'll prepare to play it. So he kind of left it that that's when it's played and that's when we'll all get ready to play that game. So I love how they both. I love how they both deal with one another and don't mention the other school. I think that's just wonderful.
Yeah, I think it's wise of Jim Harbaugh to prepare to play the game when it is currently scheduled. I mean, that's basically what he said is we'll play it whenever it's scheduled. Ryan Day didn't say he expects it to be moved or anything like that. Ward Manuel and Gene Smith talked about it being moved back in June, had discussions about it earlier this spring and summer. So that's why Ryan Day said there have already been talks about it. And he said, that's all, I thought when he said that, I knew it was going to create a storm. I thought his reasoning behind it was solid in a sense that he would why would you need to move it? You move it so that if you both Michigan and Ohio State have clinched a berth in the Big Ten championship game, you want that game to remain as important as ever. And if nobody needs to win it to advance to the Big Ten championship game, then will somebody rest their starters or something like that? And so the logic is that you can't do that in the middle of the season. And so it remains as important. And so I understand that. My thinking is fix it if it becomes a problem. Don't fix it until it's a problem. And I still don't think I've contended that even if they have to play back-to-back or they know that it's been everything has been clinched, I don't think you go into that game looking to take it easy. However, coaches are so paranoid that taking it easy and losing that game might be the advantage that you need to win the conference championship game. So I think there's just a lot of paranoia in that regard and concern and maybe trying to overthink some things. But I know Ryan Day got a lot of grief for it, and it's something that no other Ohio State coach has really had to deal with in terms of the possibility of playing 3 times in a row. So I don't know that we know how Urban or Jim Tressel or John. Well, I think we probably know how John Cooper would have felt about it, but these are new situations, so it's going to cause some discussion about changing some things. But I don't think you need to change it until it becomes a problem, and I'm not convinced it will be a problem.
With the glacier speed that they move at with things, though, I don't think it's wrong to start talking about it, because even if they do have to do back-to-back in 24 and 25, and that's really, saying that USC isn't going to make an impact, Penn State isn't going to get any better, whatever may be. I mean, conference expansion is on its ear right now. Who knows what the conference could look like here in a couple of years. It certainly did tweak a lot of people. I think Ryan Day detractors just used it as more fuel to detract away on him, whereas the people who like him are like, ooh, I don't know why you would go there. But I remember having this discussion several years ago. It didn't feel like it was a brand new thing to me at this point. I mean, that there was the conversation that you could have it. And while we were having a couple of drinks at some point, we talked about how many times we've had that Ohio State-Michigan matchup in the postseason. And that's been none, even during leaders and legends. How many times have we seen Florida State, Miami in the ACC? That answer would be none as well. So, you kind of need to see it before you have to do that. But I also think that not at least getting, a little due diligence done now. I mean, I think that would probably be problematic too, because we know how quickly conferences and programs and everything else are willing to move.
Because all that has to happen is that one of them takes a step back, or with USC, Penn State, and others, certainly, they play varsity football as well, that we go 3 consecutive years and we don't have Ohio State, Michigan playing in a championship game, and they play in the middle of October, and people are going to be like, what's going on here? So nobody can forecast the future. It's a tough call, but I'd like to see it continue on the last weekend of the season.
Well, the thing is, they schedule 2 years out in advance, so it's like they can make pretty quick changes. These aren't 7 years out and then, we'll see how things go. I just don't think you need to change anything right now until you know it's an issue. But I do, like Chocolate Bonnie fan 24 saying Day doesn't understand the game. The reason he wants to move it is so that it stays as important as it has always been. That comes from an understanding of the rivalry, in my opinion. And I've seen people saying he's scared or he's a coward or whatever. It's like, you still have to play the game. He's not the one that is responsible for canceling a game. He's the one, they're still going to play the game. He's just trying to keep it as important as it has always been. And with the importance of the growing importance of the playoffs, it's, I think everybody knows it diminishes the regular season. And how would it diminish that game when neither team needs to win it? And college football has changed. It used to be your season was determined by who wins that Michigan-Ohio State game. That no longer, that doesn't determine your season necessarily. If Ohio State wins a national championship last year, does anybody care that Michigan beat them other than Michigan fans?
Well, you've got you're arguing the tangible versus the emotional and the tradition.
And college football is the tradition.
Yeah, college football is becoming more and more like the NFL, where just the final result, the Ravens beat the Steelers twice in the regular season, but then they lost the AFC champion. It doesn't matter. And we're headed toward that in that direction. But there will be many of us purists and diehards that will still, be more emotional and invested in the game than whatever the playoff result is. So you can't please everyone. And we apparently, as media, look past Ryan Day's many faults, according to Chocolate Bonnie Fan 24. I don't know what those are. He's lost 2 games to Michigan. Those are basically his faults during this tenure at Ohio State. That's pretty much it.
And we had somebody on our board mention that he's 1-5 against top 5 teams. And, you consider one of those is a loss by a missed field goal. Another one is the overturned game from Clemson with that fumble pickup that, that game, if Chris Olave catches a post route in that game, that changes things. Of course, they got obliterated by Alabama. That was a COVID season, but they have been pounded by Michigan. So that right now is the definer for Ryan Day. It's those 2 Michigan games. You lose to the national champion, 3 of those losses. It is what it is. Don't lose to your rivals in the fashion that they've lost to them.